The Galactic Institute of Martial Craftsmanship stood as a monument to 10,000 years of interstellar cooperation. Its crystalline spires reached toward the purple skies of Nexus Prime, reflecting the light of 3 distant suns. Within its halls, the galaxy's finest students learned the ancient art of weapon forging, a skill considered essential for any species seeking to join the Galactic Council. Aura wiped sweat from her brow as she examined the forge before her. The equipment was unfamiliar, designed for species with different physiologies, but she'd made do with worse. Beside her, James was already sketching designs on his datapad, his eyes focused with an intensity that made the other students uncomfortable. Their instructor, Master Velkath, moved through the workshop on 6 chitinous legs. The Valori were renowned weaponsmiths, their exoskeletons naturally resistant to heat, their multiple limbs capable of working metal with precision no human could match. Velkath's compound eyes swept across the class of 30 students, representatives from species spanning half the galaxy. Today, Velkath's voice resonated through a translator chip. You will forge your first blade. This is not merely a test of your technical skill, but of your understanding of your species. Martial heritage. Use the materials provided. You have until the 3rd sun sets. The workshop erupted into controlled chaos. The Zanari students, beings of living crystal, began shaping molten metals with their heat-resistant appendages. The aquatic Delphini worked in specialized pressure chambers, forging blades from compressed ceramics. The Throck, massive and bear-like, hammered away at traditional steel with enthusiastic roars. Orla looked at the materials provided, various alloys, composite metals, even some rare elements she'd only read about in textbooks. Each student had access to the same resources, enough to forge a masterpiece. She reached for a rod of titanium carbide alloy, then hesitated. James hadn't moved toward the materials at all. "What are you doing?" she whispered, glancing at their instructor who was helping a struggling Paquali student. James held up something he'd pulled from his pocket. A pale, curved object about the length of his forearm. Found this in the Xenobiology Lab's waste disposal. Femur from a Grolian sixhorn. They throw them out after dissections. That's bone," Orla said, stating the obvious. "Yep." James pulled out a small case of tools. Not the plasma cutters and molecular forges provided by the Institute, but primitive implements, files, stone, strips of rough material. Our ancestors didn't always have access to advanced metallurgy, or they used what they had. Velkath's many eyes swiveled toward them. The master weaponsmith approached, mandibles clicking with what the translator rendered as curiosity. "Human James, you do not use the forge. Are you unwell? Just working with different materials?" "Master," James replied, already running a file along the bone surface with long practice strokes. Several students stopped their work to watch. A Janari named Crystal Alex drifted closer, its prismatic body refracting light in patterns that indicated confusion. "But the assignment is to forge a blade. You cannot forge bone. It will splinter, break. It is inferior to proper metals." James smiled without looking up. "Tell that to the warriors who conquered continents with obsidian and bone." Orla understood. Then this wasn't stubbornness or eccentricity. This was James making a statement. She turned to her own workspace, and after a moment's consideration, selected not the advanced alloys but a simple carbon steel rod. If James was going primitive, she'd meet him halfway. Humans didn't need the galaxy's best materials to be dangerous. The hours passed, the workshop filled with the sounds of hammering, the hiss of plasma torches, the hum of molecular assemblers. James worked steadily, shaping the bone with techniques that predated spaceflight by millennia. He carved grooves along its length, bound it with salvaged synthetic sinew from the materials pile, created a handle wrapped in leather-like textile. The blade's edge, he sharpened it with increasingly fine stones until it caught the light like glass. Orla finished her own blade, a simple but elegant knife forged the old way with hammer and heat. It wasn't fancy, but she'd made it with techniques passed down through generations of Irish smiths. When the 3rd sun began its descent, Velkath called the class to order. One by one, students presented their work. The Zanari had created blades that sang when swung, molecular structures perfectly aligned. The Throck presented massive cleavers that could split armor. The Delphini showed daggers that could function underwater at crushing depths. Then came James. He laid the bone blade on the presentation table. In the workshop's bright lights, it looked primitive, almost crude compared to the technological marvels surrounding it. Velkath examined it in silence, manipulating the weapon with surprising gentleness. "You were instructed to forge a blade," the master said finally. "I created a blade," James replied. "Forging just means to shape something through effort and skill. Our word comes from the Latin fabricar, to make. I made this." Velkath's mandibles clicked rapidly. The translator struggled before settling on thoughtful consideration. The master ran a specialized appendage along the blade's edge. "The sharpness is remarkable. The balance is precise. But it is bone. Human. It will not last. Against a proper metal blade, it would shatter." "Maybe," James acknowledged. "But my ancestors hunted Megapana with these. They fought wars, carved empires, survived ice ages. They didn't have the luxury of advanced metallurgy. They used what they could find, and they made it work." Crystallic spoke up, its voice tinkling like wind chimes. "But why demonstrate inferiority? The materials were provided. You chose to handicap yourself." Orla stepped forward, her own simple blade in hand. "He's showing you what makes humans dangerous. Alex, we don't need the best materials. We don't need advanced technology. Give us a rock, a stick, a piece of bone, and we'll find a way to turn it into a weapon. We'll find a way to survive." James picked up his bone blade, testing its weight. "Every species here comes from worlds with different resources. The Zanari evolved alongside crystalline structures. The Throck had abundant metals, but humans, we came from a world that didn't give us much, so we learned to use everything. Bone, stone, wood, sinew. We learned to look at anything and ask, can this kill? Can this protect? Can this help me survive another day?" He turned to address the entire class. "That's what you should fear about humans if we ever become enemies, not our technology. Everyone catches up technologically eventually. Fear our adaptability. Fear that we've spent our entire evolutionary history learning to make weapons out of nothing." The workshop was silent. Master Velkath picked up the bone blade again, examining it with all 6 eyes. Then, to everyone's surprise, the master retrieved a piece of standard testing material, a block of synthetic flesh analog used to evaluate blade effectiveness. The bone blade cut through it like water. "Humans," Velkath said slowly, "are accepted into the Galactic Council for many reasons. Today I understand one more of them." The master's eyes fixed on James and Orla. "You both pass, though I suspect, human James, that you have taught this class more than I intended." As the students filed out, Orla walked beside James. "You know, you could have just forged a normal blade and gotten the same grade, right?" James grinned, tucking the bone blade into his belt. "Where's the fun in that? Besides, the galaxy needs to understand something about humans." "What's that?" "That we're the species that looked at bones, rocks, and sticks and conquered our entire planet with them. Give us starships and plasma weapons, and imagine what we'll do next." Orla laughed, but she saw the other students watching them as they left, saw the new weariness in alien eyes. The message had been received. Humans didn't need the best tools. They just needed a challenge. Tell me in the comments how you liked the story, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing HFY stories like this.